All right. Hi, everybody. My name is David Butler, and I'm one of the park rangers at Waco Mammoth National Monument. And what I'm doing here today at Kendrick Elementary is the Rangers and Libraries program. Sometimes we have schools that can't come out to the Mammoth site, and so what we've started doing now is bringing the Mammoth site to the schools. So what we're going to be doing is exploring some fossils together, and then after I go, that fossil kit is going to belong to the library, and so all of the teachers on campus will be able to check that out from the librarian and use it in their lessons in their classrooms. Yeah, so y'all are the first ones to get to test it out. All right, so a little introduction of me. I have lived in Waco my whole life. I grew up here just like you guys. I went to La Vega, and then I went to Baylor after that, and now I get to be one of the scientists at Waco Mammoth. And I found my first fossil when I was 8 years old, so I really wasn't that much younger than what you guys are now, right? And so I've been hunting fossils ever since then, and now I get to bring my love of fossils to everybody else. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today are fossils. And the first thing we need to do is talk about what a fossil is. All right. I don't know why. There she goes. All right. Oh, that'd be fantastic. Okay. All right. So what is a fossil? A fossil is actually evidence of prehistoric life. It's a clue. It's like a little piece of a puzzle. And it can be about any kind of life. I mean, you might be looking at the fossil of a plant. You might be looking at the fossil of an animal. There's even fossils of bacteria, if you can believe that. And so the more of these fossils we look at, the more we can learn about the history of this planet that we live on. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't know about fossils is they're not always petrified. When you think about things like dinosaur bone, I mean, you know, they tell you, well, that's not actually the dinosaur bone, that's a copy of it, right? That yeah, you had a mold and a cast, and you know, the bones deteriorated and it left a hole in the rock, and then these other minerals came in and filled it up, and so it's just a rock in the shape of that bone. That does actually happen, but not always. And so this is a really good example of that. This is a fossil sea urchin, and it actually came out of Valley Mills, which is not that far from Waco. Now, half of it has petrified. This side has been replaced with some yellow crystals. It's a mineral called calcite. But the left side, you can see, is not petrified. It's actually still got the original shell. So what we're going to do is break into little groups of, let's say, 4 students per group. I'm going to hand you one of these fossils. And what you're going to do is see whether your fossil is turned to stone, not turned to stone, or if it was somewhere in between. If it was like starting to turn to stone but didn't get to finish. Y'all kind of get that? Okay, so break into groups of about 4 or 5. Here's your fossil for you to explore. Here's a fossil for you to explore. You're free to take it out of the bag. Just, you know, don't break it. Let's see. I'm going to give you guys that. Yeah. Take your fossil out of your bag and y'all take a good look at it. Tell me if it's original, if it turned to rock, or if it was starting to turn into rock and just didn't finish.
It looks like it's turning into stone, just not finished.
What do you guys think about it?
That looks weird.
It would look better alive.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is.
What do you think it is?
Looks like branching to rock.
It looks like it's turned into rock, but just not finished yet.
Yeah, because it kind of still feels soft.
Yeah, I don't think it's really finished turning into stone yet.
You think you're getting it figured out? If you saw that just like on the ground, would you think it was a fossil, or would you think it was pretty recent? So that shell, it's still a shell, isn't it? Yeah, it hasn't turned into stone at all.
After the other fossils, it's already done.
Yeah, all right. All right, so has everybody figured out how their fossils have been preserved? Yeah.
Tell by the edges.
Like, you can like literally tell that it's
All right, so let's share with the group. All right, so we're going to start with these guys here. Can you share with the rest of the group what your fossil is?
Like a shell.
Yeah, it's a seashell. Now, is it still a seashell or has it turned into stone? It's still a shell, isn't it? Yeah. That got dug out of the ground. It was like 20 feet underground. So yeah, it's definitely very old, but it hasn't petrified at all, has it? Okay. So what about you guys? What do you have?
Tooth? It's
a two.
It's a tooth? Yeah, you have a megalodon tooth, don't you?
What?
It says it on your bag.
What? I knew that. I knew it. I knew it all along.
So that I.
What? Let me see. I have to touch it again.
Okay, so that megalodon tooth, has it petrified or does it still have some tooth enamel on it?
It still has like the original version.
It still has the tooth enamel, doesn't it? Now what about the bone that makes up the root of the tooth? Has that petrified? Yeah, the bone. You've got the tooth.
Right there?
Yeah, that part, the bone. Is that still bone or is that petrified?
That's petrified.
That's petrified. Okay, so yours is partially petrified, hasn't it? Not all the way. Okay, all right. So what about you guys? What did you end up having?
It's like branching bryozoan.
Okay, yeah, you've got the bryozoan. That's a moss animal. Yeah, have you ever seen like a fish tank and it's got a sea fan in the back just kind of waving in the water? Yeah, that's what that is. Now, is that actually still a sea fan or has that petrified?
Petrified.
It is. It has. It is completely petrified. It's a rock now. All right, and our last group here. Can you tell the group what you have? Hey, y'all, pay attention. Yeah.
We have a ray fin fish fragment.
Okay, yeah, you've got a flat fish, don't you? All right, now, can you still see some of the fish bones in there, or a couple of them? Do they look like they're still bone, or have they petrified? They still look like bone, yeah. Now, some of the bones have gone, haven't they? Yeah, so how can you tell that the bones were there?
Because there is
Ridges.
Yeah, okay, so they left an impression in the rock, didn't they? Okay, that's fantastic. All right, everybody, so go ahead and put your fossils back in your bag. When we study fossils, we talk about body fossils and trace fossils. So let's talk about the difference. All right, so body fossils. Why am I not getting my animation? Oh, come on. Hey, there she goes. All right, so body fossils. It's the actual body of the animal. Yeah, it's a part of its body. It can be one of its bones or a part of its shell. And it doesn't have to be original. It can be a copy of it too. It just tells you what this animal looked like, right? Now, trace fossils are the other ones, and trace fossils are pretty different because it's not the animal, it's something the animal made. So, yeah, it can be a hole that it dug or a nest that it built or even a little poop right there. Yeah, that's a fossil turtle poop right there. Now, every now and then we get fossils that are both. So what we have right here is a manatee rib. And yeah, so that's the part of the manatee's body. But all these little marks on it, those are chew marks from a shark. So we've got part of one animal's body and then something that another animal did. And so that tells us about two different animals on one fossil. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a chart just like this one, and we're going to separate all of our fossils out and kind of look at them that way. So if y'all can make like a big circle for me. Big circle. So we got a space for our body fossils, space for our trace fossils, and a space in between. So let's go through these one at a time and see what we have. All right, so we've got our branching bryozoan that you guys had a while ago. Is this a body or is this something that's been made? That's the body. Okay, so we're going to put it here in the blue.
Okay.
All right, so here's our flat fish. Is this body or trace?
Body.
Okay. Okay, here's our seashell. Body. Okay. Ah, here's a sea urchin. Body. Okay. It's starting to notice a pattern. Okay, this is an oreodont. This is an animal that's extinct, and it was related to sheep, goats, and pigs. Yeah, it's the jawbone. Yeah, so body, okay. Yeah, got a section of a giant tortoise shell.
Oh, that's body.
That's body. Yep. Megalodon tooth. Body. All right, we've got an assortment of little bitty seashells. Body. Okay, we've got part of a mammoth tooth. Body.
Santiago, if it's part of their body, then it's on the body part.
Okay, got a brachiopod. That's a lamp shell. Body. Snaggletooth shark tooth. Body.
That's small.
All right. We've got a baculites. That's a type of squid. Body. All right. Got a trilobite. Body. All right. Y'all noticing a pattern here? Yeah. Okay. We've got a horn coral. Body. Okay. We've got an internal cast of a seashell. Yeah. This shows you what the inside of that shell looked like. And the last one, we've got a really big ammonite. That's another type of squid. Body.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so what is the pattern we've noticed here? They're all body fossils. Yes. Okay, so trace fossils, these things are really rare. Now, can y'all think of reasons why we have such a hard time finding trace fossils?
Because they're difficult to hide. You know, they're difficult to find because they're not really easy to find, like body fossils.
Ish. I mean, a lot of times you'll have trace fossils that are not as noticeable, but that's not really the culprit behind it. I think I actually heard somebody back here say it. Yeah, they decompose. All right, so let's think about, let's say, poop. Imagine a world where poop did not decompose.
That would be disgusting. I mean, when you find a dinosaur poop, it won't be.
Yeah, they don't normally preserve. Poop is supposed to fall apart. I mean, seriously, imagine a world where it didn't. That's terrifying, isn't it?
That's
okay.
stinky.
That is really stinky. So thank goodness poop falls apart. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, think about like birds' nests. Is that nest supposed to last forever? No. Footprints in the dirt. How long do those last?
Like 10 months.
I mean, basically until it rains again, right?
But to dinosaurs, they might step in it, and then after that, the asteroid might start to extinction.
Yeah, footprints sometimes can last, but they don't normally. I mean, like, you go walking on the beach, and then when the tide comes in, your footprints are gone. So the only time footprints preserve is if, say, they walk through mud, and then there's a really long drought, and that mud can fully harden, and then you have to have more dirt come in on top of it and cover it up, but without destroying them. It doesn't happen very often. So things that animals make, I mean, they're supposed to be temporary. That's why we don't find fossils of them very often. So we know a lot more about what these animals look like and things that they would eat, but not necessarily things that they would do on a day-to-day basis. Those are harder for us to figure out. What's your question?
This? I have a sample of that, but it's like much bigger. It's like the size of this.
Yeah, they can get as big as a car tire. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Monster squid.
I found it.
Okay. All right, so the history of the world is actually pretty long. The world's been around for 4.5 billion years. Wow. Yeah, and so what I have is a time scale. Here's the fun part. It's not actually to scale. From here on, each one of these inches is 10 million years. But the early part of the Earth's history, I couldn't do that, because if I did, that period alone would be 21 pages. I know, right? So if I had made this to scale, we would have set it in here and it would have gone all the way out that door to the rest of the library. This thing would have been too long. So the first 3 periods I shrunk down, and then after that I was able to make it all to scale. All right, so what we're going to do is each of you is going to get a fossil. You're going to look at the period and find it on here and place it where it goes. Yeah, you're going to place it in its time. So you might need some help because your period might not be on the same side of the time that you're on. I'll give you that meg piece. All right, so like I've got my Oreodont and it's from the Oligocene. So when I look on here, there's the Oligocene right there. So I'm going to place that right there. Okay.
Wait, what do you?
Yeah, let's look at our pattern. What's our pattern this time?
Mine, Debbie on in period.
Ordovician. Yeah. Okay. So we've only got like 4 fossils on this end.
Yes.
The rest of them are over there. Okay, so this is when life started, and then this is modern time over here. So what's the pattern that we're noticing?
Everything was in modern time.
Yeah. The closer we get to modern time, the more fossils we have. Well, how come?
Because
What do you think?
We have more machines.
Are you saying there was more animals then than when life first started out? It's a valid idea. When life first started out, do you think there was like all of a sudden just like, okay, here's 1 million animals, boom? Or do you think it just started out with like 1 or 2? Yeah. Okay, so when life first started, you only had a couple of things, and then life starts taking more foothold. They move out of the ocean, they move onto land, they move into air, and so we've got more animals now than we used to, so that's part of it. Well, let's think about those rocks that are really deep down. What happens when rocks keep getting pushed down like that? What happens to them?
They're getting squished and they're getting flattened.
Yeah, they're getting squished, they're getting flattened. What happens if they get pushed down really deep?
That we cannot find them anymore
How come?
because they've been squished and flattened
Uh-huh.
and pushed down.
Uh-huh. Do y'all know about the rock cycle? What happens with the rock cycle? Yeah, they get eroded and then they turn into sedimentary rock. And then what happens if they get pushed way down to where it starts getting hot?
They start to melt.
They start to melt, right? Yeah, so the rocks that these animals got buried in, those rocks might not even exist anymore, right? Yeah. All right, and then, well, when we start looking over here, we've got like a mammoth, and we've got a turtle, and we've got a shark, and we've got this like little pig guy and this fish. These all have bones, don't they? Yeah. A couple of reasons. We know a lot more about life on this end than we do about life on this end. All right, so last thing I want to do is do the Fab Fossil 4. We're going to talk about 4 fossils in particular out of this kit. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is that ammonite. Where's my ammonite? There's my ammonite. Yeah, all right, so y'all look at this thing. Do I have the whole shell of this guy?
No.
No, I sure don't. I've just got a little section of him. How big do we think he was?
Like a little bit huge.
Yeah, no, he was probably about that big, wasn't he? Yeah, a full circle. Okay, so, but he kind of looks like a squid, doesn't he? He's like a squid with a house. Now, back behind him, that's
Predator.
that is his predator. That's a mosasaur.
Oh yeah, most.
Yeah. Mosasaurs were basically sea monsters. And these little guys, these little ammonites, they had really thin shells. So there's this squishy squid inside of this really paper thin shell. And if you think about it, I mean, it's basically a Skittle. You know, it's got like a little candy shell, and then it's all soft and squishy in the middle. So this was like a really good food for mosasaurs. And so a lot of times we find these things, they've actually got the bite marks from mosasaurs in them. Next question.
I had one of that ammonite, but like it was much bigger. But the another end, it was like totally chipped off.
Yeah, this is a really common fossil in Central Texas. We find them in limestone because back in the Cretaceous, when dinosaurs were alive, they weren't here because we were underwater. We were in ocean. So instead of having dinosaurs, we have ammonites and mosasaurs. It's kind of cool.
There's this one herbivore, I forget what it's called, that it was attacked by raptors.
Yeah.
And then it was attacked by raptors, and then a T-Rex. After that, a T-Rex heard the vibration from its feet, like felt it, and then it followed its trail. So after that, the raptors were like, "Oh, we need hide, so we're not to get eaten." So
Okay.
the T-Rex actually ripped apart the body and the tail. So
That's very interesting. Yeah.
so
This is I like turtles too. You talking about the zombie kid? You are, aren't you? Yeah, I like turtles. All right, so we've got a section of shell. The shell's actually made out of bone, and it has keratin on top of that. That's the same stuff that your fingernails are made out of. And this little guy is from the Miocene, from way over there. The first turtles actually lived back here, though, in the Triassic. They showed up roughly the same time as the first dinosaurs. And at the time, they were all about the same size. First dinosaurs were little bitty guys about this tall, and turtles were about the same. Dinosaurs got really big. Most of the turtles didn't. What's really weird is if you look at like the family tree where all the different plants and animals fit in, we're not entirely sure where turtles fit in. They're kind of a mystery. There's a couple of groups of scientists that are trying to figure out who the turtles' ancestors were, because we actually haven't found it yet. We're going to hold stories till the end. All right, so our next one. Hey, there's our megalodon. Yeah, check out that shark. All right, so our megalodon right here is eating, or well, he's trying to eat 2 whales. Yep. Yeah, those are whales. Okay, so at the time in the Miocene when these animals were alive, whales weren't big yet. They could get up to about 15, 20 feet long. That's actually not that large. Well, okay, the shark's like 60 feet long though.
Oh, God.
Yeah. All right, so this was the largest shark that ever lived, as best as we can tell. But we actually don't know for sure how big they were. For a long time, what they were doing was using a formula. Like if you get a great white shark's tooth, you can measure the tooth and then you mark it on this chart, and when you look at it, you can tell how big the great white was. So they were doing the same thing with the megalodon. They'll find a tooth and then they would put it on that exact same chart and then say like, oh, well, the shark was this big. And nobody ever questioned it. This was something that scientists were just doing and taking for granted that it was fact. A kid found out that it was wrong. Yeah, it was a kid in California. He was, I think, 16 years old at the time, and he had access to the only complete set of megalodon teeth. There's usually you just find the one by itself. There's one complete set where they were all found together in the jaw. And so what he did was measure every tooth in the set and apply it to that chart. Now guess what he found out? He found out that that shark was 25 feet long and 60 feet long. Can both of those statements be true?
Yes. Yes. No.
Can you be 25 feet long and 60 feet long? No. You have to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he found out that that chart had a problem. So he teamed up with his science teacher and they published a paper and basically told the scientific community, look, this is something that we found in your charts that's wrong, and we need to figure out a new chart so we can actually figure out how big these animals really were. So when we say that they could get up to 60 feet long, that's an estimate. We don't know for sure because we don't actually have any full skeletons of them. So this is actually a mystery that we have. But kids like you can help solve those mysteries. All right, so we're going to talk about my very favorite fossil out of this kit is the mammoth tooth. Gee, I wonder why that's my favorite one. All right, so mammoth teeth are really weird. Their teeth are not like ours at all. This is just, it does look like wood. Yeah, it's just a chunk of the tooth. The whole tooth was probably about this big. Yeah, it's bigger than my shoe. Yeah. Now the thing is, their teeth were so big because they ate grass. Do y'all know what the Mohs hardness scale is? No? You haven't learned about that, have you? Okay. All right. So when we talk about rocks and minerals, we actually have a scale to talk about how hard those minerals are. And it's a scale of 1 to 10. So the softest ones are 1, and that's talc. That's baby powder. But 10 is the hardest. What's the hardest mineral? Do y'all know?
Diamond.
Diamond. Yeah, diamond's a 10. Okay, so the softest they can be is talc. The hardest they can be is diamond. And most of them are going to be somewhere in between. Now, mammoths ate grass, and grass is full of a mineral called silica. On that scale, from 1 to 10, silica is a 7. That's really hard. Yeah. So if you rub like a piece of grass, it feels like sandpaper. It's really tough. So if you're going to eat grass, you have to have enormous teeth. And mammoths were grass eaters. They would eat 500 to 600 pounds of grass every single day. Yeah. So they actually had bigger teeth, but they also got more sets of teeth than we do. How many sets of teeth do we get?
35. 32.
No, you're,
30.
you're on, you got, thank you. Yeah, you got your baby teeth, and then those fall out and you get your adult teeth, right? Yeah, you got your 2 sets. All right, now if your teeth are constantly being worn down by eating sandpaper, you're going to need to replace those teeth pretty quick, aren't you? So mammoths didn't get 2 sets like us. Y'all know how many sets they got?
1, 10.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had their first set when they were born, and then those would fall out. Could we not all play with these? Thank you. All right, and the second set would come in, and then the third set would come in, and then they start getting their adult teeth. And their last set on a girl is going to be about the size of a shoebox. On a boy, it's going to be about the size of a bread box. Yeah, they have these enormous teeth, and they can weigh like up to 10 pounds a piece sometimes. And they needed those enormous teeth because they were grass eaters. So I don't recommend eating grass. You're going to lose your teeth if you do that. All right. Thank you for watching WISD TV.